Trust you had a wonderful day and a wonderful week. So today we'll be treating few things. So before we get on to the topic for today, I'd like to address something. We're supposed to um we're supposed to work on forms, the other class I took, but then I couldn't finish because I had some little people. So we'll go back to that now, and once we're done, we'll get on for today's topic. So let's see. I believe you guys can see my screen now. Okay, so for this, you guys remember? Let's just go to this. You guys remember these three topics we treated in the first week now? So these two: the introduction to Flask and Flask templating engine. Right? Guys, please let's answer. This is more of an interactive session. We're learning together. So please let's be responsible. Right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So I'll ask a few questions just to see that you guys remember. You guys remember what we're talking about. So let's see. Okay, I'd like to ask, what is WSGI? Can someone just explain what this does? Because I think I explained it in the last time. Guys, I'm waiting to know. Hello, guys.
Hello, good evening. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chief. So I said, let's make this class as responsible. Let's interact with them. I'm trying to say, if we still remember the things we did in the last class. So I was like, can someone briefly explain what template are, then the WSGI engine, what it's all about, and all.
Like a recap or what?
Yeah, well, I just want to know that remember
WSGI.
what we did the last.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I said WSGI is what helps us to um, generate the server that we
Yeah,
are
that's
working
right.
with. Huh?
That's right. Helps us to communicate with the server. We catch that. Alright, so basically what the WSDI does is an engine that interprets Python, or not necessarily interprets Python. It helps Python to communicate to the server. Because basically Python is, I mean, we can write Python and run it in our terminal. But then to be able to run it over HTTP protocols, that's where the WSDI comes. That was like the topic we took in the first week. We also talked about templates. Then last week we talked about databases and ORM. So who can tell us what an ORM is?
Sorry, come again.
Okay, I said you guys in last week's class.
Your audio, I don't know if it's only me, but your audio is breaking, so it's difficult to get what you're saying.
So, sorry about that. I said you guys were in the class last week, yeah? And last week, because last week we treated databases. Can you hear me clearer now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So last week we talked about databases and ORM. So who can tell us what an ORM is, or who can give us the full meaning of ORM?
ORM is Object Relational Mapper.
Wonderful. So yeah, an ORM, object relational mapper. So can someone else tell us what it does? How to like how we make it an ORM? Anybody?
Oh, I don't know if it's just me, but we didn't touch ORMs last week. We just did that
Oh,
intro to databases.
well, sorry about that, because that was supposed to be taken by two tutors taking this class. So I guess I'll just give a little brief on ORM. So basically, an
Thank you.
ORM is an object relational mapper. Simply, what it does is let's look at things from this point of view. Right now, we are learning Flask, we're learning Python, but then in all truth, that's not all we need to actually write things to create an actual web application. I need a lot of things, and one of the major things we deal with is data. So basically, your users come, they register on your website. You have to save their data somewhere. You have to interact with their data from time to time. Like let's say we're looking at Instagram, for instance. You have to save the people they are following, so you'll be able to give them their own proper feed. Not everybody that gets the same feed. Basically dynamic. So you have to save data for each and everybody, each and every person, each and every activity that goes on the web app. So basically, to do that, usually what would usually do, or what was done before ORMs came into existence, SQL, writing SQL queries. I'm sure we are familiar with SQL now.
To an extent.
Yeah, so SQL queries are basically written to query a database, fetch information, to add information, to edit information. Basically, the idea is CRUD, CRUD, create create a field in the database, add to the database, read that get from the database, update data on the database, and then delete data from the database. These are like four major things you do with a database, and then usually we write raw SQL, but then it makes more sense for me as a Python developer to be able to write my queries in Python syntax without having to write raw SQL. I mean, writing raw SQL on some level is also nice because there are sometimes you actually have to use raw SQL. But then when you have an OR, you guys, okay, I'm sure you guys know about abstraction now. But you know what abstraction is?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Okay, so I said abstraction. It's a term in software development. Basically, what it means is to like put a layer or to abstract away the underlying features. Basically, if you remember when I was explaining Flask last week, in first week, when I said, so basically, when we are trying to build a web application, there are a lot of low-level features of those implement, like URL routing, like things like that. But then Flask as a framework has abstracted all of that away for us. So basically, it has given us a tool to create web applications without having to write the low-level features. So basically, that's the idea of abstraction. Say, what's the word? Okay, let's look at a simple thing, the microwave, for instance. The microwave, the abstract away the eating of the food and everything, abstract all of that. All you know is I put my food in the microwave. After like a few minutes, it gets warm. You don't know I mean, we know how it works as we are scientists and all that. But then if you look at it from a general point of view, from the point of view of a layman, the most some of them would not know how it works. You just know if I put my food there, after a few minutes it gets warm, basically. So the idea is the underlying features, the things that happen in the background have been abstracted away from um, from the regular users. So basically that's the same idea with object relational mapper, the ORM. So basically, what it does is it abstracts away the raw SQL writing for you. So basically, you write a syntax or you write a query in Python. Then what your ORM does is convert that query into raw SQL, queries your database, and gives you the information you need. So at the end of the day, it's simply an ORM. Because I didn't know you didn't treat it last week, so I don't know the what's the word, the standard definition for it. But what I can explain is that what an ORM does is it allows you to write queries to your database using whatever language you are using instead of writing SQL. So, say for instance, you are writing in JavaScript, there are ORMs you can use as a JavaScript developer to interact with your database. Here we are writing in Python, and one of the major ORMs for Python is SQL Alchemy. So basically, SQL Alchemy is, you guys should probably check it out. Is an ORM for interacting with our database using pure Python syntax without having to write SQL. Then Flask developers have now been able to like make an extension. You know, I said this at the beginning of this class that Flask is really lightweight. So it doesn't come with any extra feature other than the core features. So basically, for you to be able to do the things you need to do, you have to either write it yourself or, well, luckily, the Flask community is quite large now. So there are a lot of developers building things that we can make use of. So one of those things is Flask SQL Alchemy. So it's like it's inherits from. I'm sure you guys are also familiar with objects. What am I with OOP, object-oriented programming. Basically, that with the idea of inheritance and all that. Okay, Isaac, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Not really a question. Please, I don't know if it's only me, but your mic is like you're moving away and then coming back. It's really making it hard to hear what you're saying.
Okay, I really apologize. The thing is, I'm out, so I just have to like hold my laptop close to my face for YouTube to aim clearly, and as I'm explaining, gesticulating, my hands are moving. But I apologize for that. So okay,
Okay, no problem.
where should I start from again? I think we're talking about
No, just
what.
continue. I thought it would be remedied so that it will be changed while we're going on in the
All
class,
right,
but just continue. Thank you.
all right. Thanks for the clarification. So yeah, the ORM. So yeah, we're talking about Flask SQL Alchemy. Flask SQL Alchemy is an extension for Flask built on SQL Alchemy itself. Or like I was saying, inherits from basically the idea of inheritance. If you are familiar with object-oriented programming, you can inherit from another. Python is object-oriented, so I'm sure we should be familiar with object-oriented programming. So Flask SQL Alchemy is an object relational mapper or model that we use Flask to interact with our database. I'm sure last week we talked about database, we talked about relational and non-relational databases and the differences between them. So basically, for Flask SQL Alchemy, it works more with relational databases because when you are interacting with non-relational databases, you probably just have to use the syntax given by the particular database. Let's say, for instance, you are using MongoDB. MongoDB has its own syntax, and it's quite relatively simple. I mean, because MongoDB is like just you're reading from the dictionary, and you're reading documents basically. But all you have to do is just get is something like that. So it's quite simple. So I feel like working with non-relational database just has to do with you getting yourself familiar with the documentation. But with relational database, there's still a lot to learn on that database. Like, there's a lot. I would like to even share, or you guys should check roadmap.sh for you guys to see the backend roadmap, to see the things, the topics you guys have to like, because right here in this class, we're just learning about Flask. But the Flask is just a part of backend. Flask is like the framework we're using. But then there are other tools we need to use when we get to when we want to deploy to server, when we want to secure our applications and things like that. But that's beyond the scope of this class. I'm just telling you guys. So that's generally the idea of ORMs, abstracting away the writing of SQL queries and writing them in actual Python syntax and still being able to communicate with the database. So that's generally what an ORM is. So are we cool with that?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, then
Hello. Is there a um, is there a subtitle feature we can use so that as we are talking we can be seeing the text on the screen?
I didn't get that.
I said, is there a subtitle feature we can use so that as you are talking we can be seeing the text on the screen?
Okay, yeah. Can you see that now? Okay, I turned on live captions now, so I don't know if you guys. Okay, yeah, does it work now?
Sir, I didn't get that.
I'm assuming you guys can see the caption at the bottom of the screen or something.
No, we can't even see your screen.
No, not well. Let me see if I can show my screen share, but we are supposed to be seeing a caption or something because I turned on live caption, so it gives me, and as we're talking, it kind of does this text to switch to text this thing.
No, there's nothing that's showing. Nothing is showing here.
How about now? You can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So you should be able to see this. So yeah, I was gonna go talk about forms, web forms. So basically, web forms are a way of getting data or information from our users. Basically, you go online, you fill a Google form, and your data is saved to a database or to some file or Excel sheet, however the case is. So basically, in our web apps, web forms are tools, according to that we use to get some data from the front end, from our users, basically. So we'll be talking about web forms now, and I'm gonna have to like move to a you guys move to that. So so here we are. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the captioning would not be showing here, so I'll try to be as audible as possible. So Flask has this extension that is used for forms, basically. It's called WT. Or generally, there's an actual extension outside Flask called WT forms. The same way I explained that on SQL Alchemy. Then Flask developers now created an extension specific to Flask called Flask WTF. So basically, Flask WTF helps in validation, in security, in writing clean and writing codes that are not redundant, basically. It also helps in reusing code. So we don't have to write code all over, like over and over again, basically. So what it does is in the back end, basically you create the fields you want to you want your form to have. Let's see here. So okay, these are the major things you need to import for you to be able to make use of Flask WTF. And if you like to see more, because in this particular example, I'm just going to be making use of two fields. But if you want to see more examples, you can check this link here. It to other directs you to to a link to a website that shows other fields you can make it. So basically, To do that, what we need to do is we have to create a class. Basically, a class that contains all the fields we'll be using. And then one thing you should note is, okay, I didn't mention this in the first class. We need to configure a secret key for our app, basically because this enhances security. This security key or this secret key is what um, Flask uses to recognize this particular application, basically. So any should I say query or anything that comes from outside this application and doesn't carry this secret key on some level, say in this area. You guys remember the HTTP protocol now, get, add, post, and things like that. So if it doesn't carry a particular key that helps Flask to recognize it, it won't be allowed. And one of those things is the Flask form or the WTF form makes use of the secret key. So for us to be able to use secret key, one for us to be able to use WTF form, sorry, we have to import a secret. We have to configure a secret key, basically. And this is bad practice. What I did here, it's the standard that you're supposed to put your secret key in a .m file. So basically, it's an environmental file where your environmental variables are stored. So if someone is going through your code, they can't see your sensitive information. All the sensitive information that is in your code should be stored in the environmental variable. And basically, or usually, most files, the .m files are hidden. So no one can just go to your server. Or no one should actually be able to get access to your server. Then if anybody get access to your server, then that's already like a really really big issue. But say for instance, you push your code to GitHub for now. No one can get access to your sensitive information because usually when you create a git ignore file, it ignores one of the things it ignores is the .m file. So the .m file is a place to keep your sensitive information. So basically, you're just supposed to like keep this secret key here and then import it into this file. And then another dependency is Bootstrap. So Bootstrap is just a way to make our form look better. Because if you write plain HTML, it's probably just going to look as plain as possible. It's going to look like a website out of a 1990 movie or something. You get the idea? So at least beautify our website a little bit. We bring in Bootstrap. So basically, the idea is, let's say we want to create a login form, for instance. Okay, before I go on, I want to be sure that you guys can hear me.
We can.
Guys? Okay, great.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So and we are following. If there's any time you don't understand something, please talk. Because if you raise your hand, I might not be able to see it, saying I'm not on that screen at the moment. All right. So to create a form, what we need to do is create a class with let's say we want to create a login form, for instance. This class right here will be named login form, or actually whatever name you want to give it. But it's best to name it something that is related to what you are trying to do. So that way you already know what this is and what it does. So you don't have to stress yourself. So then it also has to inherit from this Flask form, which we imported earlier here. Flask form is gotten from Flask WTF. So basically, a lot of the core features that Flask WTF gives us in a form are already implemented here. So we just extend that feature when we are creating our own form. So say for instance, we're creating a login form. The things we would need to have is one, say a username, and you have to define the type of field or the type of data that that particular field will take. So that's why I gave you a link to a website or a page, an article basically, that lists out all the fields that you can use in the WTF form or the WT form basically. So one of the things you can use is a string form, basically. So this form, and this actually is very interesting because when you go to a website and you're trying to fill a form, basically you see some fields that let's say like they're for phone numbers, and when you try to enter a text, it immediately tells you that you're entering the wrong thing. You're supposed to enter, and when you try to enter the string, sorry, it tells you that no, this is not for strings, it's for integers basically. So this here already does that validation because usually we can actually go on the front end and try to create our form in a way that okay, it won't take text, it won't take strings when we're trying to take integers. But then instead of having to go through all that stress, Stability Forms already does that for us with its fields. So this string field, for instance, no one would be able to go there and input numbers. It won't work. Or actually, if they input numbers as a string, it would work here. Then you get the idea. It's not it validates things for us, and then also you can also add validators like this. It's required. It tells the server that okay, if this person doesn't input anything here, when you go on the Google form and then you see that asterisk, so if you don't put something there, so, you'll be able to submit. So basically, that's what this validator here is doing. So if this person doesn't put anything, you don't have to form. So it's like it's abstracted a lot of features for us. So all we have to do is just go and read more on WT forms and make use of it. Basically, you don't have to rewrite your own scratch. That's general idea. And it also it's secure. We get to do a lot of other things. So basically, we have a string form here. We have other string fields, right? We have other fields that we can make use of, but for now we'll just be sticking to this. So let's say you've created your class for your form, so a name form. Here, you're just trying to get the name of your user. You put your name and submit. And then we also have a submit field. So after you created this, the next thing for you to do is now actually, because here you just created like I just created something, but I just dropped it somewhere. I've not made use of it at all. Yeah, so that's what we did here. We created the form, but we've not made use of it. So now it's time to actually make use of that form. And to do that, we go to our views. You guys remember our views now, where we define the routes and the logic itself, like this. So basically, we go to our route, to our view, wherever we want to add it. So yeah, this will be a view that basically just takes the user's name and print it out on page on another page. Basically, so this is what you do. We must have imported, except if we have that, if we define the form in the same file as this, then that won't be a problem. But if say you most times it's best to actually keep things like that in another file, say in your utility file or there's a file called form.py, basically just to keep your code clean and things like that. So what you do is you instantiate that form. And this is what I mean by instantiate. You create a variable form and you equate it to the type of form you want to use. So say for instance we have a login form. Would have form equals login form, basically. So we have an instance of that form in this route here, basically. So it's as simple as that. This route here already has a form. I know you guys remember that this you guys remember this method idea now. I want to be sure because this is what determines this side, right?
Like, no, I don't.
Sorry?
I said I don't remember.
Okay. So basically, like I explained in the first class, what get does is to fetch data from the server. Well, post or well, you could use get to actually well actually yes, fetch data. Let's just keep it that. Let's keep it as simple as possible. Get fetch like its name, get data from the server, and post like its name, it posts data to the server, basically. So in this view, the methods allow for these routes are get and post. So basically, that means you can if you go to your web browser, www.mywebsite.com/form, and you can get information, you can get data, and you can post data at the same time. So the way this works is if it's if the person sends a get request, it is simply just render template to send data to the user. Say you go on your web browser and you type website.com/form. That's automatically a get request. And what that does is just to give us this form. We already have a form here that we define here. So if form the validate the submit, there's no submission here. Since nobody has filled the form, you are still trying to get the form for yourself. So this wouldn't work. And as long as it doesn't work, it moves on to the next block of code, which is render template. It renders the form page with the form, the name form we defined earlier. So now on our page, when we go to this resource, what we see is a simple form that says what is it? I mean, which is your favorite actor, which actor is your favorite, and then you have a box for you to infuse the actor's name, and then you can simply click on submit. Now, you clicking on submit is what prompts this guy here. As soon as you click on submit, most forms are defined using post request, basically. So it sends a post request to this particular route, and then this guy here tries to check that okay, did the person submit? Yes, you click on submit. Now, did you pass all the tests that were written down? Remember that when we were creating the form earlier, we told the form that okay, this field must take only strings. This field must be filled. So those are the validations that you check and to make sure that okay, all the tests, all the rules I laid down for this particular thing that were passed, basically. So once that happens, then it goes ahead to do all of this. Now this here is just you trying to get data from the name. I think this is as explanation as you get. So this is like basic Python form.name.data basically, and then just pretty much just saving it to database. So the general idea here is how we can create our forms, yeah, how we can make use of them. But truthfully, right here, what we still have is just we've defined the form here. But then you guys remember variables now and template rendering. You can't even if you define a form in the backend, if you don't render it to the front end, it's not going to have any effect. So basically, if you don't you guys remember how we can using Ginger templates and render dynamic content to the front end, basically. So that's what we'll be doing. Now, yeah, we already told the route that okay, if it's a GET request, go to this HTML file from the HTML and render this particular form. But now we have to make our HTML file ready to accept this form. Because if we don't, it's not going to happen. So that's why we now move to this next page. So, and I'm sure we remember what's it called? Remember Ginger template syntax now? Or we've got to read more about it because I mentioned this in the first part. So basically, what's happening here is, we imported Bootstrap earlier. So the Bootstrap we have in Flask allows us to, or generally Bootstrap allows us to make use of already defined classes. We know what classes are in HTML now. Already defined classes to further beautify our web page, to further enhance the looks of our web page, basically. So instead of us having to write all the CSS, make the web page look better, or to have the effect to make it have, Bootstrap already creates for us some features that can do that. So basically, we are extend. Are you guys remember how to extend from one HTML template to another? Basically, I'm assuming all these things because I mentioned all of them in the first class, basically. So yeah, once we extend the base file, we can import. Bootstrap also has not general Bootstrap now. This particular one here, this import. What are you trying to say something?
Please, yeah, can um can we code this out, like see it like on instead of seeing it on the slide, can we just like as you are coding then you explain what it, because right now it's hard to understand like this.
Quite abstract for you. Okay, the thing is, like I said, I'm out. So, well, let's see. Can you guys give me like a few minutes, like set up and see if I can do that? Does that work with every other person? Hello, guys.
So I don't get that.
Okay, so you said it would be nice if I can like write the code as I'm explaining, not because I already created the slides earlier. So it was like I should rewrite them as I'm explaining. And I'm like, is that okay with everybody?
Sincerely, I actually think it's the best because it's kind of abstract right now. I'm actually finding it hard to understand. So I think if you're actually coding and you're doing it for us, it will be better for us to actually understand better.
Okay, then. Give me a few minutes to settle because I'm not inside now. So let me just try and settle the few things and I'll get back to you.
Sorry, will there be a way for us to get the slides, please?
Yeah, it's on the Slack channel or the Google Drive link. You guys have access to that now.
Yes, I didn't know I could get it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So okay, give me a few minutes. Let me try and set up now, and then we'll continue with that.
Sorry, where can we get the slide?
Okay, guys, can you guys hear me now? Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. And let's start. So I'm just going to be writing because I'm trying to create an environment for this, but let's see. Yeah, yeah. Half an hour. So yeah, let's just start with this. Um, keep- so I just have to set up. Fish. So these are these things we'll be using. Okay, so let's just start. Make this easy. class. So we need, I'm trying to import all the dependencies first before we get started with writing code. Okay, let's get started. Let's just do this. As we go on, we'll install the dependencies that are needed. So basically, we have instantiate our app, like we already know, class. So these errors they are just basically because I'm using PyCharm. PyCharm doesn't really recognize class. But this version of PyCharm, this I'm using a community version basically. So let's just bear with that. So we also have to configure our app, our secret key. Like I said earlier, we are supposed to put this in the .m file to help us with security and all that. So basically, um, okay, let's create our form first. So like I was saying, we have sure, so we won't put that yet. First from first editor. Okay, so we are creating a name form now, or a name form, which will be extended, inheriting from Flask form. And like I was explaining earlier, we can define whatever fields we want based on whatever information we're trying to get from our users. So here we're just trying to get their names for now. So we'll be using a string field. So name equals string field, copying what exactly is here, okay, which actor is your favorite. And then remember the validators. So I guess we have to import that here. Then, so do we understand to this point? Guys, Hello, guys.
Yeah, I understand. Right.
You guys are seeing this now. So basically, from here on, now let's define a route that that will be able to make use of the form. So app.route, let's say form. Then the methods that can get method, post method. So get request to post method. Now let's define a form, name form. Um, I'm trying to get something. Okay, so simply, what we do now is, to, like I said, instantiate our form, name equals name form. So basically, here we have our name form now. So to now make use of it, the simpler way or can just do if first the method was so basically what we are telling this guy is so we need to import request here. So what I'm telling this guy is if it's a post request or if it's a post request here, basically if the post request do this. But for now we're going to pass on that. Let's go to the get request. So if it's not a post request, what we want you to do is to return render template. We have to import that too. Let's not forget for the Flask features that we need to use, we have to make sure we import them. Sorry. Render. So we render this template. Now, okay, I would like for someone to explain or to remind us of how to create templates. Because I gave something of an explanation last week on how we can work with templates. So I'd like for someone to like remind us. Go on.
We use Ginger template types.
Sorry.
We use Ginger template types.
Before that, we have to create our template for it somewhere. For our Flask app to be able to recognize it, for our Flask app to be able to know where it is, basically. So I'm just going to explain it now. Basically, this render template, what it does is it goes to our root directory or to the current directory where this current file is. Then it looks for a folder or a directory named templates. You have to make sure, don't forget that. It looks for this templates folder, and then whatever we now say it should render. Now we are saying render form.html. So simply, it looks into this template folder, template directory, and tries to get a file. Let's just use a regular file, form.html. So that's what it's looking for. So when that template goes into the template directory and finds whatever file we are giving it here. And now you remember we already created our form here earlier. So what we want to do now is to pass that form to this template that okay, whenever we go to this route and to get request, render this form template, and the particular form we want to put there is this name form. So what we do is form plus form. So this is simply just are you trying to say something?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Does that mean we have to always name the folder template? Like
Yes.
must we actually folder template?
Yes. Or
Okay.
I'll say yes according to my knowledge. According to what I've read, according to what I've known, what I've seen, what I've done, it has to be named template. Because I
Okay.
wouldn't
So
want to say yes and then maybe it's a time where maybe there's a possibility of it being changed. But the industry standard, what I know, what I do is name the folder template, basically.
Okay.
Okay, so are we clear on everything so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So now we've told this route that okay, we need to get request, just render this form. We'll get back to building the form later. But let's fix it. Let's work on this route more. So now if it's not a get request, if it's a post request, if the user has already filled the form and clicked on submit, what do we want to do? So now this one wants to do if name dot validate on submit. So that means after the user submits, if everything the user does is validated, that means if it's a string and if the person inputs something, because you know the user can just go to the web and just click submit without writing anything in the form. So it will tell you that as long as all these things has been all these tests, all these conditions have been passed, this is what you want it to do. So now pick the name. Name. Okay, so I was supposed to name this form. Um, validated. So now the name the user input here would be equal form dot okay, yeah, dot name dot data. So basically we've gotten the what's it called now? Name of the or the name the user input. You can simply just do usually what we usually do is maybe if we had another endpoint that has to make use of the name, or we can create a logic that it is saved to the database. But to simplify things for now, what we can simply do is just print out the name. Then why is this an issue? Okay, we print out the name, and then let's say we return redirect URL for yeah. So let's create an index route, just a simple web page so that you can be able to redirect this. Everything. So yeah, return render template. Or let's just do make it simple. Return hello or as easy as it is. So basically, now that we have that, this route once you fill this form, what it does is to print out this name in our terminal and then redirect us to this particular endpoint. So now, that being said, this form.html will not beautiful. So what we can do now is go into our form and build. I'm just going to copy here just to make things easier. I want to confirm a few things. So, hey, I can copy this. Okay, so let's just write this as simple as this. Hold on. But this is simple. Let's just do because I didn't plan on doing all of this. Okay, we're probably gonna have to, so then we import so basically we've imported this. So now we have all the features that this tool gives us. So we'll proceed to actually creating our styles and all that. So So let us keep it simple as this for now. So we can do. Okay, sorry. So this should do. Okay, sorry, I forgot. I'm just trying to make sure I'm typing the correct things. Okay, so let's do something. Let's go back to this. Let's run it now and see. I don't know why this is bringing an issue. So, okay, so we're having an error here. Oh, my bad. Oh, sorry. I forgot to add something. This was the app.org. Now let's get back here. So, yeah, let's go here. So, you guys see this in action. This is basically this route, the home route, the index page. That's let's say so this let's say it was http my website.com. If you went to this link, this is what you see. Hello world. Okay, so basically, now let's go to our form. So simply we have a form here that gives us room to write to input a name. So let's assume you submit this form without writing something. It will give us this. You know, I didn't come to my HTML file to say, okay, the form has to be filled. All I did was just state here that this data is required, and it automatically gives us this picture here where if the form is not filled, it's not going to work. Fill out this form. So now let's input someone's name. Who's my favorite? Which actor is my favorite? Let's say and then we submit. You see, it's redirected us back to the index page. And now let's see, it's printed out Dwayne Johnson here. So usually what you would have done in this situation is probably just fetch the data and add it to your database. But to make it simple, to simplify everything and to explain it to us, I'm just going to print, I just printed it out here. So you see how it works. Basically, all it does is the form is created here. Okay, let's see other fields. Since we are already working on this thing real time. So give me a minute. I'm trying to get this thing. Okay, so let's look. Let's see. Okay, let's look at let's say we are trying to build a login form, for instance. So let's say let's build another one. Then we have the password field. Let's import that here. So I hope you guys can hear me.
I mean, we can.
Okay, and you guys are following now.
Yes, I'm following.
Okay, so if there's anything that you don't get or you don't understand, you just let me know.
All right.
So simply, we've created two fields here. You have a string field, you have a password field. You can create as many fields as possible depending on, let's say for instance, you want to create a user registration field. You can have a string field where they input their name. You can have a text area field for like it's maybe like um you want to input a description of themselves. Like explain yourself in like 3, 4 lines. You can have a text area field, a radio field. We know how radios work now to speak. So basically, these are all the things you can. These are the kind of fields you can have. And simply, yeah, we are using a string field and a password field. Now, the password field, like you usually know, it doesn't show the password because basically, yeah, in the string field, say as you are typing, it shows what you are typing. The password field would block that away from us. So let's use this instead. Submit field login. So we've logged in now. Now let's just create a new route for our login. Dot route login. Or just make things easier. Let's just use the same one because I'll have to create a new template for it if I'm going to create a new one. So let's use login form. Login form. So now we have our login form. Basically, it's going to do the same thing. We're going to print out the name and the password. So let's get our password. The password equals to form dot password dot data. So now let's let's run the server again and see. So if we went to this page and we load, now you see we have two fields. So basically everything is dependent on what you define while you are creating your form. We defined a username field. So let's say our username is I use my username blank god as my nickname. Then password. Let's say my password is 12345. 12345. You see, it's already abstracting away. It's already censoring the password away for us. So basically, even if we are trying to log in beside with someone that's by our side, we don't have to stress about this because it's not sure. Like a regular password form would work. So now let's log in. Oh, sorry, I didn't change this. Let's no, it's here. Username, not name. So let's go back to this form. So this is also something. Now it's even good here. Why this showed here? Why all of this showed here is because we turned on our debug before to show. So basically, Flask is debugging the application for us and it's telling us the error that happened. Let me change this back to name and let me remove this debug and let's see what will happen. So if we went back, sorry about that. If we went back and then we say let's input our password 1345 and we say login. See, it gave us an internal server error. But this is too vague or this is too abstract for us because you will know exactly where the issue is. Just like, okay, there's an issue. So you have to now come here and read through your terminal. But then once you put on our debug to be true, what happens here is it already tells us that, okay, sorry, I'm supposed to have this, okay, hold on. This is supposed to log out our errors for us. Yeah. So now it's easier for us to go through this and find out where the error is than to go through this. So you have to also get used to going through your terminal and finding errors because that's one of the things you should do as a software developer. But it's easier for us to like just check here, check on a already made user interface. So basically, that is what debug.true does for us. So now let's actually fix the error. The error here says login form has no attribute name. And here we are trying to get name from the login form. So what we are supposed to get instead of name is the username. So now let's change it to username instead of name. If we did that and we restart our server, starting our server now and then let's try again. Supposed to work. Supposed to. Well, there you go. Okay, let's do something. Instead of printing hello world, let's print out what user inputted basically. So return, let's do this. Return so basically it just returns that for us. Now let's try it again. So simply see that it prints out your username and your password. This probably isn't what you want to do. Usually what you do is to check if there's a user with this particular username and to check if the user's password is equal to this particular password. But then for the sake of this class, we're just keeping it as simple as possible and just printing it out. So basically, we've been able to look at web forms, we've been able to understand how it works. So I believe I've explained. If there's any questions, please can you ask? Because we're running out of time now. So any question in this regard?
Okay, before you started coding out the form, you imported lots of things. So you also installed some terminal. So I was able to
Yeah.
catch the imported flags underscore WTF.
Yeah.
The rest I couldn't get it.
Okay, so basically, I mentioned this in the first part. That's the title framework. It's a very lightweight framework. So these are things you usually need when building your web app. But then the thing is, Flask doesn't come with them. So you have to go and install them first. Basically, Flask developers, there's a Flask community, and Flask developers develop tools and extensions that we can make use of in our Flask applications. And a way to recognize them is by this Flask, should we say pre or prefix, basically. So basically, this WTF extension was built specifically for Flask. So for you to be able to make use of it, you have to make sure at first you install it here by doing a regular pip3 install, whatever you want. Let's say you want to use Flask mail, for instance. You can install Flask mail, you can install whatever you want to install. So basically, as soon as you've installed it here, let's do something easy. You can just do pip3. What that does for us is to freeze all our requirements into requirement file. So basically, these are all the extensions I have to install for this application to work. So truthfully, when you install Flask, when you do pip3 install Flask, things like this wreg, I mean this, I don't know how to pronounce it. So these things like this, things like Ginger 2, things like it's dangerous, they are automatically installed with it. Like I said, the two major dependencies of Flask, like I said in the first class, is Ginger 2, which is for templating, and this, which is our WSGI engine for communicating with the web server, basically. So these are our, the requirements. You have to install them. Then you come here and you import them as required. See, I'm not importing it's dangerous. Yeah. So it's dangerous is more for web security. Now that's the topic we're supposed to talk about. Okay. So let's see. Before we go ahead, is there any other question as regards this part? Are we clear on it?
Yes, I said the only one I got from all you imported was WTF. I didn't really get the rest.
Alright.
So maybe you should
So
just like walk through what else you imported.
okay, so these are the major tools and inputs. Basically, this
I
our the
understand. I understand the first line that says from flags, import flags, redirect URL for request
okay.
and run that
Then
thing.
okay,
But these
WT
WT forms, I don't understand.
it's basically like an extension we are using. Now, these WC forms, they've defined for us. That was where I was talking to you guys about this field here. Where's that field? This field. They've defined for us all these fields. So we don't have to like specifically write our own code to validate this thing. These are fields defined by WTF. So this is a repo, a GitHub repo for WT forms. So basically what it does is it gives us access to a string field, a submit field, the password and everything. So basically, just don't bother about this WT form itself. That's the idea of abstraction. They abstract away from us the low level functionality, low level things we have to do, and they just give us a feature. They give you a car and they say you should drive. You don't usually on most occasions you don't have to care about how the car works. But your own is I have my car, I'm driving it. You have a phone, you have a laptop. Except you are interested in the low level, most times you just use your phone. The internal, how the panel of the phone works, how it was created. That's not something most people bother about. Same way it works there. All you need to do is just know that okay, you have a string field that takes in strings. You have a submit field for submitting files, a password field. This WT form is just an extension basically. So you don't have to bother yourself about it. Just know that okay, if I want to import things like this, but then truthfully, can go and read more on WT forms because it will help you. Because all these things, I've had to also read them to understand what they do. But then for now, for this class, for beginner, I feel like basically all you have to just know is if you need to create a string field in your form, just import WT form, just import the field from WT forms basically. Then Flask Bootstrap, like I was explaining earlier, Flask Bootstrap is like an extension of Bootstrap specifically for Flask. So basically, what it does is to like beautify our page. So you see this here, we just created a form here. We didn't write any CSS form. But when we go to our page here, you see that the forms are at least to some extent arranged. They are not just doing anyhow at the page, but they are in a way they are arranged. They are order. That's what this is what Bootstrap does for us. It helps us to beautify our web. The idea is just to import it. But you have to, one of the things, okay, there's also CSRF, other features. But you
The
have
sorry,
to,
sorry to cut you short. The sorry to cut you short. The imports that you made, they are all underlined. Is that how it's supposed to look normally?
oh, yeah, no. I mentioned that earlier. So I'm using PyCharm, which is a Python IDE, basically. But then the thing is, I'm using the community version. That's the free version. So the free version doesn't recognize some of the high level features like Flask. recognizes basic Python or but for Flask, we could be able to see as a okay. So the thing is, we are in a when I created this project, it automatically created a virtual environment for us. And in core Python interpreter here for Python, it doesn't recognize Flask. Flask is an external how do I call it? An external framework. It's not shipped with Python. Basically, you have to install it on your own. And now for Python itself, it doesn't recognize Flask. If I was using like say VS Code, this error would not be there, or this red line is not there. So let's just take it. It's not supposed to actually show all these red lines. It's because of the IDE I'm using that we have all of this here, basically. So are you clear with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so if there's any question, please ask. So truthfully, we've actually not scratched. Because another topic we need to discuss, we were going to discuss today's Flask session. So let's quickly get to that. I think that's probably where we'll just end for today. So I'm also going to import sessions now. So simply, now it's even good. Since we have a login form, let's do something. Now, instead of printing out or instead of returning this, let's do something. So to explain what sessions are a way of keeping check of, or how I put it now. Sessions is like it's simply in Flask, in context of Flask, like a dictionary where you can keep current user or keep information about the current user or the current logged in person. Basically, it's used for like authentication or authorization, basically. So let's say if a user logs in, user inputs their name, their password, and then you've done your database checks. Basically, doing that database check is to check that okay, there's a user with this particular username, and also the password associated to that user is equal to the password the user inputted. Basically, we won't be able to go into all of that because we have to set up the database, do the Flask SQL alchemy and all that. So let's assume we've checked the database and we've realized that okay, this user is is a user registered on our system and the password is correct. What we can now do is can add this particular user to the session simply by doing it works the same way we work with dictionaries or with maps in Python. It equals name. So basically, what we've done here is to save this name. Let's just look at sessions as a dictionary that stores information, basically, and it's unique to every session. If you log in, that session is unique to you. If someone else logs in at the same time, that session is unique to that particular web browser, to that particular user. So we've stored this user's name here. Let's just do this and then say redirect. Oh, we have to return this URL for. We're going to create a new route. Let's say so redirect URL for let's say um user. Let's just put it down for now. Now here we come here and we create a new route, upload route, user. Um okay, let's just make it get endpoint for now. So the user. What this does is now this user has logged in. So now but before we can make use of sessions, we have to make sure that okay, oh, this user has successfully logged in and their information is saved to the sessions. If not, it won't happen. So to do that, we have to do if okay, hold on. So I have to check something. Sorry guys, I have to quickly check something. Yeah, Damilola.
Never mind. I actually want to say I can't hear you. That's why.
Oh, okay, sorry, I have to quickly check something. So let's go back to what we're doing. So simply, like I said, we have to confirm that the user has logged in. There are a lot of ways to do it, but then we're just making it as simple as possible. So we'll do, since sessions is like it's something like a dictionary for us, we can do something like if user in session. So basically, what this does is to check this. Let's, like we are saying, we are assuming it's a dictionary for us to understand. Check if there is a key called user session. And remember, we already defined that here. So basically, what we are saying is for this endpoint, for
Your
this
screen
route,
is not shared, sir.
my bad. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, my bad. So, like I was saying, we have to make sure that the user has been saved in our session. So simply, what we are saying is for this route to work, the user must have gone through this particular one. Because if they didn't go through this route, they wouldn't have been able to add their name to the session simply. So now, we are checking if user in session. So now, simply what we want to do is just print the user out, print or return sessions user. So simply, instead of having to now use, remember from the first week we talked about variables. Instead of having to do something like name, define a name. Well, let's even check this one out first because I didn't show you guys. I just explained in the slide. So let's say we did this. What we usually do is just um, make it dynamic. Return name, right? So if we went to that route, say dot user dot, I'm going to use my name Damilare. Uh, wow, that's interesting. Say, I have to do some features. Please give me a minute. So, yeah, apologies. I imported session instead of session. There's no S behind it. It's just session. Right? So that's it. So now let's get back here. Let's restart the server. Go back to this. So user hey guys. All right. Okay, so what this error is saying is that the function did not return some valid message. That return none, ended without the return. Apparently, I have a return statement here. So I don't know exactly why. There is computer work. When I can carry it, just
Sir Abdul, can you mute your mic?
you don't get the fact that the resources I have, not there. Like, I know I don't okay. This should work now. Let's see.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so guys, this I don't know exactly why, but this is giving an error. But I think I'll try and fix it and get back to you guys, but not to waste our time because we're supposed to end this class soon. Let's get back to what we're trying to do. Oh, okay. Sorry, I think I know the issue now. What we are doing is if user in session, and simply we haven't run like I was saying a login. But let me try it first to be sure that that's the issue itself before I say much. So so now let's try this endpoint again. Okay, great. So yeah, I was checking if user was available in sessions, but the truth is we haven't actually gone through this. The user has not even logged in yet for the user to be able to be added to the session. So that was why it was giving us that error. My bad for that. So now we've seen variables at work. So basically we see the endpoint. Put in it prints. Okay, let's put in another name here like John Doe, John. It prints out John here for us, basically. But now we don't want to just randomly print out the name, or we don't want the name to be put in the URL. What we want to do is we want the user to log in first. And after logging in, now print for us the name of the logged in user. So to do that, let's go back to our login form where we input our username and password. Well, yeah, now let's fix this. So simply what this does is we are removing all this. It checks the sessions. It checks the sessions. So basically, it checks the sessions and find out where if the user has been added to the session. So now, for this to work, we have to make sure we've logged in first. So let's go to this route, this particular route first, and make use of it. So simply, we do username. Let's see, what username should we use? Let's use Samsung and our password. So when we do this, what happens? What happens is, I think someone's trying to log in. Okay. So what happens is it saves the user's name to our session and simply does redirect to this particular route. So what we are supposed to see immediately we log in is the name printed out to our screen. Basically, it's going to give us the same thing as if we just did return name here. But we're trying to understand what sessions are in Flask. So basically, now that we've done this, let's go back here and log in. So we see here, this something that I print here is basically from our session. I'm sorry guys, like I said, I'm out. Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, yes, we can hear you.
I really apologize for this. I was out, so I've not been able to like really settle in and all that. But I hope we've been at least been able to like get what I've been trying to do here. Yes, guys.
Well, To a good extent. I don't really understand the season aspect, but at least the web forms I understand to a good extent. So yeah, it's a lot of information
Okay.
to take in. So I'll just need the slides. Let's go and digest it after.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. So actually, the web forms was something was supposed to take last week, but we couldn't finish because of time and because of network issues. So yeah, I guess we'll just take this one step at a time. Next week we'll probably just check and do more on web forms again. So I said web forms on sessions. But basically, just explain sessions. I think we'll end it soon, but let me just explain sessions where I understand it. So it's like a user has logged in, but then you want to keep track of that user, that particular user. You don't want to say have to be going because actually there are other ways to do this. Can talk about JWT authentication, can talk about fast login. But then the one that ships with Flask itself, sessions, is like once a user has logged in, or basically if you want to keep information, if you want to keep information unique, unique to a particular person, to a particular user, what we can do is to save the information about that user in our session. Basically, session is like a dictionary that is unique to that particular unique to that particular instance. Sorry about that. I ate my leg. So basically, a session is unique to that particular instance. To the say you go on the website and you log in. That's your session on that web app, basically. So what it does is it keeps information of whatever, not necessarily user, whatever information you as a developer decide to store in the session. So you don't have to like going back to the database to get the information. You can just say, okay, session dot current user equals to this particular user. So anytime you need to do anything with the current user, you can just quickly go to your session, which is what I did here. Go to your session and say session dot user, and this will return the current user. Um um what I'm going to do is I think we'll just end the class here now. But for next week, I'll write a full project, actual project that makes use of everything we've discussed so far, and then I just walk you guys through it. Why I thought was I thought the slides were going to work, but seeing writing the actual this thing works better for us, then that's something I'll do for next week. So I really apologize. I wasn't able to like really like teach much today. I was I was busy all day, so it was very late before I realized time had already gone. I promise to fix.
When are we meeting physical tomorrow?
Okay, I really don't know. I think you should check the Slack channel for any of those major information. Because I don't know. I wasn't aware of that.
Okay, please, how can we get these slides? I just checked my Google Drive and I did not see any link to it. I only got the link for the setup and the link to the classes.
Yeah, what would this? You're on the Slack channel now.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll if I'll have to discuss first with my team lead, but then I feel like I'll just send the link to the Slack channel for you, maybe today or tomorrow. At the end of the weekend, Sha, you have the link on the Slack channel so you can check it from there.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry,
Thank
sorry.
you.
I don't actually understand. Is it like, are you actually sending the link to him alone or to all of us?
No. I'll send it to
About
the Slack
the whole
channel is for
Slack
everybody.
now.
Oh, okay, okay, sorry.
There's a what's it called now? There's a channel that is connected to backend. So I'm just going to put the link on that backend. Whoever needs it can go there and pick it up.
Okay, thanks.
Wow. So basically, like I said, sorry, I we didn't even I mean we covered a lot, but we didn't cover as much as I wanted us to. And also I don't know, I might not have been able to pass the messages along to you guys well because I I was not settled in well. But then I promise you by the grace of God I would write a project that makes use of everything. So in the first week we introduced ourselves to class, it's a templating, and that's that's what helps us communicate with whatsoever. Then the second week we talked about databases and we mentioned the relational model, object relational mapper. Then this week we're supposed to talk about sessions and authentication generally, but we're not able to touch that. So what we'll do is for next week, I'll do a project for all of that. Maybe like the first 1 hour of our class would just go through all of that, go through the project, go through how it works, we see it in action. We see as you are doing this, we see that okay, this is what this code here has resulted into. So that we'll be able to see exactly what happened. And then maybe the second half we can then treat the topic for next week. Is that fine by us?
Yeah, thank you.
So I guess we're just gonna end the class here for now. But for this week, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend ahead. And just go online, read more about us. Let's do our own research. Let's learn. Pick up a YouTube video or something. Just get yourself more acquainted with class. You get next. Can even be that can just as I'm explaining, you guys are like,
Okay. Please don't forget the link. Thank you.
okay, definitely. All right, all right.
Yeah.
Good night, Abby. Good evening, everyone. Wonderful,
Thank you very much, sir.
wonderful.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah.